I want to do the drawings and write books. I want it all now. I always start with an ink outline. The American in Paris, Jerry Mulligan, was an expat emeritus who lived in a room on the top floor above a cafe, whose jolly patron and his rounder jollier wife loved the Americans and, it seemed, let him live there and live on credit. Jerry painted in the open little streets of Paris, his colors golden and rich. He fell in love with a young, beautiful, mysterious shop girl. Complications eventually did arise, but so what? In the film's end, Jerry and his love run to embrace each other with a joy that would surely last forever. More than anything I had read about artists in Paris, this movie convinced me that I had to get there before my youth was over. I was sure that, like Jerry, I would find a little studio above a cafe where I could live on credit, because clearly the French loved American artists and they cared more for art than they did for money. In Paris, I would make great paintings and I would fall in love. So that's part of the book. I dropped out of high school to become an artist and go to Paris. The whole thing just filled me with desire to be an artist, to leave the Bronx. That was part of the mission, to be an artist and leave the Bronx and go to a beautiful place and just paint all the time and then have friends, artist friends and poets, and go to cafes. That's what I thought that's what life I thought. And read books. It really was serious. I mean, it meant everything to me. I didn't speak French. I knew no French at all. That didn't dissuade me. And I had no money really, but that didn't dissuade me either. I didn't go to Paris that year. I didn't go to Paris for a very long time. The idea of it all was that there was a life of an artist. Mm-hmm. I think that was what I felt very much. The life of an artist, what an artist's life was like. It was independence. It was creative. It filled with beauty. But also the idea of painting. I loved it. I loved the way it felt. I loved the tactility of it. I loved the color, which just suddenly appeared out of nothing, from blankness to color. It was beautiful. I wrote a novel about Van Gogh called Van Gogh's Bad Cafe. But a very powerful example for me was Van Gogh, who really, how can I say, went into painting as a religion. It was a spiritual mission. Mm-hmm. But the point of the memoir that I'm reading from is that when I was a kid, I wanted to be a painter more than anything else. I wrote poetry like all kids do, I wrote these poems and I sent them to New Directions down in Manhattan. They actually would write back. It was fascinating. And I'd get a letter from New Directions. Sometimes it'd be a little printed thing, but some handwritten thing. Oh, thank you very much. Please send us more poems. My God, you live for that. I mean, you're in the Bronx or Queens or some suburbs. The suburbs, not just the suburbs, they're not the center of anything except the far away. Just a subway ride to Manhattan, downtown, is like a trip to another planet. I thought that being an artist meant many things. It didn't just put paint on a canvas. It was the spirit of things. It was the spirit of living art, thinking poetry. But I guess also something else. The idea that you leave every conventional enterprise behind to do the art. I've been making color drawings for a very long time, maybe more than 20 years. I didn't show them to anyone. One day, however, I showed them to Roy Lichtenstein. Roy and I were very good friends, very close friends, forever. I started to show the drawings, and one of them he stopped, and he kept looking at it, and he said, "Fred, this is really beautiful." And he took two of my drawings, one he had in his studio on the piano in Southampton, and one he kept in his studio in West Village when he worked. So I've been making these drawings, and then in the last few years, I just started to do it more and more and more and more. Gauguin said, when you begin to make a drawing, hold the pencil loose. And that really struck me. I thought, that's about everything. About writing, poetry, anything. Hold the pencil loose. Don't get frozen, don't get anticipatory. Just relax. Whatever happens, happens. So what? Well, I see this drawing as a failure. I have no intention to do anything to throw it away. Make a drawing that no one's ever seen before. That's interesting. Maybe this is salvageable.
I think so.
Maybe the drawing is salvageable. Any further?